Stiff truth. Thought that was cute. Whole day. Something we should probably do for the show at some point.
I get it.
Just to let everyone know which bros would like to fuck if they had a wig on.
Gross.
Why you gotta be so gross about it? So gay. God. Let's do a show. I'm ready to do a show.
We're trying, Bob, but you had to look at men dressed as women that you'd like to bang.
Yeah. And not only did I like to, you found something that you would.
It's true.
This is why we do this. Because you never know.
Oh, jeez, he's got the hiccups already.
Yeah, I just had a bunch of broccoli and no drinks. And I'm waiting on this tasty beverage to actually have a drink because I don't want to down it because there's only two. And it's like basically a large shot. Anyway, let me shut this door. Hey. Welcome to the Stiff Truth. I'm Bob West. I'm here with Scott Castlenoa. We're here to tantalize the senses and stimulate the sensations of the human mind. Scott, how you doing?
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I'm doing pretty well, and thank you for that somber, sobering intro, because that's what we need today on the Stiff Truth. I'm pretty pumped up though, Bob. I'll tell you what, man. As I do every Sunday that we do a show during football season,
you jerk off beforehand so that you're nice and loose.
Absolutely. And after I stop having the shakes from a nice jerk session, I reflect on what's been going on in the football world as of today. And I'll tell you what, you know what I mean? Just like, can I say this? And I'll just go ahead and say it because I know I can say it because it's our fucking show. But isn't it painful, Bob, when you can watch a game and be like, so you're an NFL coach? Because I think I can make better decisions for you, for your team today, for the life of your season. And you're like, wow, I just did. Like, I literally called this better decision that should have been made by any logical coach. And here we are with the Buffalo Bills taking a skid.
I was just going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched a lot of games today,
yeah.
And you must be referring to the Bills game.
100%. I mean, we watched this game, and just so the stiffies are out there in the know, I think almost everybody in our region got to see this game on TV. But I'm not going to go play by play here, but it looks like they could have easily taken a very short field goal to take a commanding 13-point lead and late in the third quarter, almost the fourth quarter, and probably could have just fucking skedaddled out of that game with a nice win, But I think what happened is they forgot they were playing the Vikings, who apparently play the worst football in a good way, I guess.
Those guys win NFL games like Democrats win congressional races.
I'll say that. Yes, sir. Amen to that. And how timely is that with our conversation today? But yes, the Vikings are literally the Dems the past two cycles for elections, because they just come in and they make it look ugly, but they just eke out a win somehow. But yeah, here we are again, 8-1 Minnesota Vikings. With the Buffalo Bills losing a heartbreaker to them in overtime. Now, and there was multiple times where the Bills could have won that game.
Quick question. Is the coach of the Bills still Sean McDermott?
Today he is.
Okay. Just wondering, because I asked how you're doing, and you gave a referendum on Sean McDermott's coaching pedigree. So at least that game didn't tug at the old heartstrings.
No, not at all.
You're totally non-interested and equal on the outcome of that game. Good.
I'll tell you what. I try to be very just non-judgmental about most games here. I try to be very open-minded and just be a spectator of football, Bob. But I will admit though, it's getting to me. The Buffalo Bills, the curse of the Buffalo Bills kind of gets to me now. Like literally by statistics, they have the best team in the NFL by fucking far on the offense and the defense. Notably, the only people that have like an equal defense is the Cowboys, right? But they're not really in their realm yet. Like it's not even touching them yet. So I think like the Bills should be undefeated right now. They really should by paper. But they're not. They're 6-3. They're skidding. They literally now are not even in first place in their division. The Miami Dolphins are first place in their division, which should be no surprise to you.
You know what? Tua's been lights out. I hate to say it, but that dude, as far as quarterbacks go and outplaying like their expectation by far, there's two quarterbacks in the league that come to mind. Right? There's Geno Smith, obviously, number one. No one fucking expected that shit. But the other one's got to be Tua. I mean, and who else is there that's really surprising us this year? I think it's Tua and Geno are the surprise of the season as far as quarterback play goes. And Tua has been fucking lights out.
Well, you're forgetting one that's been very surprising this year. Matt Ryan. You know what I'm saying? Surprisingly
bad. Right. Well, I don't know. He was pretty bad last season. Like no one paid attention to that because like they're the Falcons and no one watches Falcons football. But beyond that, you know, I got to say, we were watching that game together and we were taking shots. So, FYI, just a warning to the stiffies. We're about 6 or 7 shots in today.
We're doing pretty good.
Interesting start to the show today.
we're lubed up. Hold on. Let's do a hard pause real quick. Hard pause. Bob, even though we are tuned up a bit for the show, we're still having a stiff cocktail for the drink. And we haven't even talked about it. We haven't dangled it a little bit. We haven't given any kind of inclination about what's really going on here at the Stiff Truth with the stiff cocktail. And the last time I checked, it's the most important part of the show. One of the most important part of the show.
First off, Scott, we are consummate professionals.
I love the change of pace and the stare at the camera when he says that. But hey, Bob,
can I get camera 3?
Look at this. Look at this. Get in here. Hold this bad boy up.
I didn't even garnish mine.
Bob, now okay.
But look at that. That is like some Caribbean blue, or maybe not even Caribbean. That's an Arctic blue.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and just say this because I know it's true from cocktails amongst cocktails that we've made here. Blue Curacao is another dandy. We had slow gin last week, which is another one that brings out a fabulous reddish, kind of deep reddish color, usually mixed with most cocktails. When you throw Blue Curacao in a drink, you know you're going to get this nice deep Caribbean blue sea kind of drink right here. And this looks just like this. But Bob, what the fuck are we drinking today? Tell everybody about it.
Well, we're having a Blue Kamikaze, and it's basically vodka. You color it blue with some Curacao, but it's 2 ounces of vodka with a half ounce of Curacao for effect, right? And then you splash some lime drink in to make it a tolerable, lengthy shot. But this is basically just a shot of vodka over ice. I mean, it's not very tasty. It's very beautiful looking, but you know, it isn't the best tasting drink that we've had. But man, it's fucking stiff, as true to the show, and it's fucking beautiful. That is a beautiful looking drink. So Blue Kamikazes, I like it. It gets right down to business and it looks pretty. Just like
I guess what happened here in the midterms, right? It wasn't very pretty, but it worked. And from Bob's lens, it was a beautiful thing. If I could say that.
So last week, for y'all to follow the show weekly.
Oh, by the way, this is why me and Bob aren't political analysts, because we swung and a miss.
Well, I would say we talked offline about this. I think we fell victim as to the media, and we took the bait. The media for the last 3-4 weeks has been saying this election is not about abortion, even though we knew that a lot of it was going to be, but then we lost sight of that because we're looking at 7 to 10% inflation over the last year with like minimal raises, right? And we're looking at literally our bank accounts going down while it's like fucking $15 for a case of sodas at Costco. It's fucking retarded, right? So we're looking at all this, and when we hear it's all about inflation, it's all about crime. personally, I don't give a fuck about crime in Chicago or New York or California, but we did fall privy to that fucking conversation in the news. And my view is I took the bait. I was like, it is about the economy. It is about inflation. And people are done with the crime. But when actually it came down to people voting and going to the vote, I'll be damned if Roe v. Wade wasn't one of the top things on the fucking agenda. And I think across the country it proved to be so, historically so, that over the last 50 years, this is unprecedented.
Yep. Well, yes, and you're right. Both you and I, we got in the back of the van with the guy that had candy. That's what we did. Nothing weird at all. We just wanted a lollipop. We wanted to suck on something. You know what I mean? That he had something sweet going on. He was offering something sweet. We just wanted to suckle it. We got in the back of the van. But you're right, dude. I mean, we did talk about this offline. In retrospect, obviously we did swing and a miss, but I think we were in the vast majority of people that were under the impression that the Republicans should have flipped way more seats than they did.
Well,
way
Scott,
more
and
seats.
rightfully so. Biden's approval rating's 41. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
well, but here's the thing, though, and we talked about this. I will say this, and we also mentioned this to each other when we were offline here, and I think I contradict myself a little bit from previous shows, but I think this proves that what the Supreme Court justices did was completely not in cahoots, completely nonpartisan, and they weren't backing anybody up, because literally I think that the personals, vendettas, or whatever to overturn Roe v. Wade was not a collaboration between the GOP and the and the judges at all, because I think it literally was the deciding factor in people that don't have to really deal with the woes of inflation or the woes of like crime or whatever. Let's call it white suburban moms. Let's just call it that. You know what I mean? I think they went out to vote, and I think they got like some final heartstrings pulled, and they're like, ideally, I'm not really paying the bills here. I live in a nice neighborhood. That's really not affecting me. But God damn it, if my daughter has to like lose her rights because of something in the future, I'm just going to go ahead and pull this blue lever. I think that's what happened time and time again, overwhelmingly, and I'm using some crass generalizations, right? You know what I mean? But I think that was unaccounted for. If you remove that from the blue narrative, and I'll call it the blue wave narrative, if you can't campaign on anti-abortion and women's rights, which the rights of a historically oppressed gender, that's a pretty easy platform, Bob. You know what I mean? To get back on top of. But like you said, it's been dormant for 50 plus years. Like there's been no reason to even get on top of that one again. You know what I mean? But here we are. The judges give them a brand new revived platform, and then add to that Trump sticking his fucking nose in campaigns and backing candidates, which literally signed their figurative death warrant, and in the campaign trail. I think those are the two things, man. You remove Trump backed candidates, you remove the abortion thing. I think we do have like a no-brainer. I think we have that red wave that was expected, but I think those are the two things that we overlooked or thought were not a big deal, because we honestly thought to ourselves, I think we even said it on the show. I was like, yeah, abortion, I mean, I don't want to sound like a dickhead, but it doesn't affect as many people as inflation is affecting everyone right now, right? So we thought like, how are people going to vote? It's going to be priority. Right now, its priority is going to be the economy, inflation, and I was wrong.
I've got a couple of things about this. So first off, rewinding it all the way back to our Roe v. Wade episode where we talked about this, we specifically said the Supreme Court is going to fuck the GOP come election time, right? We called it then, right? And we were pretty steadfast about that belief. Fast forward, and I'll say it again, me and you kind of got swept up in the news cycle and where things kind of are in the last month, and we kind of got we let ourselves be influenced by mass media, by mainstream media, right? Was it MSM, right? Mainstream media. We got red wave googly eyes. That's what we got. We fell victim to that, as did a lot of people. But I think so. There's a couple of miscalculations here. First off, do you know about the Heritage Foundation?
No, not offhand.
So the Heritage Foundation is this group of conservatives that are the highest fundraising amount of money coming into the GOP, right? The Heritage Foundation influences judge elections. They make recommendations based off of their board members that are going to the to presidents and to the senators to decide who's going to be in federal judges, right? That this is like, you know, a court of appeal circuit all the way to the Supreme Court. In fact, when Trump got elected, the Heritage Foundation gave him a list of maybe a dozen judges. These are the judges that you need to pick from, right?
I see. I'm reading about them right now. They were especially relevant during the presidency of Ronald Reagan and furthermore.
Yeah, because Ronald Reagan didn't need their money. He was a populist president. In the true sense of the word, everyone fucking loved Reagan. All right. Yeah. So beyond that, so this Heritage Foundation and Mitch McConnell go back a long way. Right? Yeah, Mitch McConnell's like life goal of being on the Senate, being in power for 20, 30 years now, has been to overturn Roe. It's been an objective of his, and he's pushed and he's pushed and he's pushed, and he's worked with this Heritage Foundation to fund, you know, the GOP and get everything. In fact, Kavanaugh, Comey Barrett, and Gorsuch were all on the Heritage list for Trump to put on the Supreme Court, right? And he did it, right? He got him there, you know, with his help, he got him there, and Trump's help, he got him there. And when Trump, not a true politician, had no foresight, because he's kind of going with the flow, how Trump does, right? I think Mitch McConnell achieved his lifelong goal, but then he realized, oh, fuck, I think I fucked ourselves here. And he started pulling away from Trump. If you notice in the last year, he wouldn't back the Trump candidates. He wouldn't put the Senate majority money towards some of these Trump candidates. J.D. Vance had to get Peter Thiel to donate for him in Ohio. Like,
he was wising up. He was
definitely realizing the fucking 100%. What was happening, right?
Yeah, like this seems like everybody that aligns themselves with this guy goes down. Like,
right, and then he finally like realized, oh shit, we're in pretty deep now. Like they announced it before the midterms. Mm-hmm. They shouldn't have done that before the midterms. But again, like you said, to your point, you can't control these judges. Yes, conservative they may be, but they're not politicians. They're on their own agenda, and if they feel that passionate about it and they have the opportunity, obviously they took it.
Yeah,
right?
They took it blindly, knowing that. No, not knowing. I think they just took it blindly. I don't think they
took it regardless.
Yeah, I don't think they can. This just proves it. If they were aligned with the Republican Party, then they would have shut their fucking mouths until after this election. Because you know what,
100%.
Here's the thing. They don't say a fucking word until next week about the abortion thing, and then like whatever, right? There's already like
there's a red wave.
Yeah, there is legitimately a red wave. Like mad flowing. You know what I mean?
They could have had their cake and still been able to eat it.
Yeah.
If the Supreme Court would have just shut the fuck up until December and then ruled on Roe v. Wade, they would have already had the majority to rewrite laws however they needed to for their approval. Mm-hmm. And then the Senate and the House would have been Republican. Biden would have been a lame duck. Hell, the wave might have been big enough even for veto power. You know, but this Roe v. Wade thing coming from the Supreme Court, as we said, when it first happened, fucked the GOP so bad. I mean, historically, if you look at it, the House should have lost 40 seats. They're not right now. They're going to be between like 4 seats, give or take, either way, of who gets the majority. The Democrats should have had less than 200 seats, like far less. And the House should have been in firm Republican control. The Senate should have been in firm Republican control right now by at least 3 or 4 seats.
By all accounts, that looks like that's going to stay a narrow blue a blue Senate. Like, I mean, literally, when I mean narrow, I think it's gonna say the exact same balance of the last 2 years, right?
Yeah, depending on the runoff, it may be 1 more seat going to the Democrats. But historically, the first midterm of a presidency, you lose by like 15-20%. Not even close. It's a drastic change the other way. We've talked about on several shows about how when a president gets elected, the opposite party gets to sit in the House almost every fucking time since like the 70s. Like this is going back 50 fucking years. And then all of a sudden now it didn't. And what's the cause for that? Is it because gas prices are so cheap or that milk's not $4 a gallon? Fuck no, it's not because of that. It's because of one thing. It's because the Supreme Court decided to take a right that was already here away from people. Come to find out, people don't like rights being taken from them, Scott.
Regardless of what they are, honestly. Right. And that's where I was wrong. I was like, yeah, and again, me being a little bit biased in the sense I was like this, thinking it in a strategic high level. I was like, this only affects certain women right now, not nearly all Americans, and maybe, bleeding hearts to a large degree, but like people are gonna vote on what's relevant, right? They're gonna vote on what's priority and what's relevant, right? But what turned out to be relevant, which makes sense to me, is, hey man, this was cool before. You're literally taking something away from people that could jeopardize a lot of things for a lot of people. And no, but here's the other thing. I think this is the bigger thing. Honestly, I think that was a tip of the iceberg. I think the bigger thing is Trump. I think the bigger thing is Trump.
That's a big factor. No one likes that prick.
No, nobody likes him. And it's so funny as I'm watching the election results come in, I'm thinking to myself, almost everybody that's coming in surprisingly not winning that was projected to win. I was like, well, the Trump-backed candidate, the election denier, right? As like they lead in with that, which is just the wrong thing. You want to be like, that's the wrong category that you want to be in when you're like
only in a democracy.
Right. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, the election denier candidate from this state. I was like, well, they're leading in with election denier. I wonder if he's doing well. Oh, weird enough, he's not doing that well. You know what I mean? But like every single person. And then the big standout to me on why I thought this was the biggest deal is DeSantis, dude. Let's just face it, dude. DeSantis is doing a great job. He's doing a great job by himself, and he's kind of repositioning the foundation of the Republican Party without Trump entirely. And I think he won his state close to like 60 something percent. You know what I mean? It
was a firm win.
Compared to the rest of the country, a landslide kind of win. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me, glaring, so to speak, is that he was completely unaligned, we'll say disconnected, untethered from Donald Trump. And I think that's proof in the pudding right there. You know what I mean? So that's where I think the Republicans lost the most, is they're literally letting Trump linger, and his lingering is like, it's almost like a sickness or like cockroaches. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not flushing this dude out, and then they're wondering like, what? Why didn't we take over? Where's the red wave? What's going on here? And I'm like, dude, you still got dirty dishes in your fucking your sink, or you still got dirty fucking laundry in there, and it's Trump, and you can't really do much with that going on. That's all I'm saying.
So maybe because I'm a little bit more left than you. I think that's fair to say. I'm a little bit more left than you.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. Like,
but I would say I would take that a step farther, right? I would say
fucking figures, bro. Figures.
Not only are people tired of Trump, which I think they are. I think Republicans are tired of Trump. I think people are just tired of seeing Trump in the news cycle. Like, let's just fucking move on, right? But I also think that the MAGA movement and this weird alt-right Christian nationalist fucking women are less than, minorities are less than kind of rhetoric that goes around in that far right or MAGA movement. I think people are fucking tired of that. And I think you couple that with the fucking Supreme Court ruling, and I think there's women out there on both sides of the aisle that are like, I'm a real fucking person, and I'm going to go vote like a person. And you guys are going to get fucked, right? Because
hold on, wait.
I'm going to actually say something right now.
Women are people now? When did this...
and I have to say this. So my son is a Gen Zer. He's turning 16 in a few days. Happy birthday, Darren. You're my world. You're amazing.
Woo!
But half of his generation is of voting age right now. And I got to tell you, there's not a lot of conservative values going on with the Gen Zers. Maybe 3 out of 10. There's a lot of progressive movement. There's a lot of just the ideology and sexual fluidity and kind of how they live their life. I think we're in for a big surprise when the Zers are all 18. It's going to be kind of their world. If they choose to vote, they're going to have a huge influence on every election. If they choose to vote, that's always the question with people under 30. If they choose to vote, this election, I think they did choose to vote.
Well, and that's a fair thing, because I think you could even say that with millennials. If millennials choose to like actually come out and vote, we'd probably be in a different scenario than
it was even
right
us
now.
under 30. I mean, it's everyone under 30. It's every generation. No one thinks it's important until they actually start realizing, wait, this affects my life. Like, when you're just trying to get when you're trying to get laid and drunk, it's not as important as when you're actually like raising a family and being a productive member of society. You're like, wait a minute, this shit is real, and I keep getting fucked. And then you want to like voice your opinion.
And not the way you want to get fucked. Am I right? You know what I mean?
No. Unless you wake up sore and don't know exactly where you are, you're not getting fucked right.
Jesus Christ. Sorry about that, date rape victims. I'm sorry about that. It's like,
yeah.
Victims. Holy shit. She was asking for it.
I think I date raped that dude. Yeah. I never saw it coming. Anyway, so it was quite the surprise. So the Dems hold the Senate right now, from the looks of it, and there'll be a Georgia runoff as per usual.
Can we say this though? Thank God for Herschel Walker, right? Because when the red wave is just breaking and crumbling down, standing there with the football without a thought in his mind is Herschel Walker, ready to rock and roll, dude. Because I don't know about you, but I feel much better knowing that he is there supporting us, holding up the wall. Just he is. That's what he's doing right now. Like, Trump's wall is falling down. Herschel Walker is there, like, just sprinting at it, just hitting it, doing some fucking, some relays, just getting down.
Can we talk about carpet bagging? Speaking of Herschel Walker.
Yeah, we can. We talked about it. We talked about it last episode a little bit. But yeah, let's talk about it.
We all know that. Well, I don't know if anyone knows really, but Herschel Walker lives in Dallas. I mean, he now like bought a place in Georgia to run for Senate because someone asked him to. But in Pennsylvania, there's the epic carpetbagging going on with Dr. Oz, right? And he lost to a guy that had a stroke like mid fucking run.
What's this guy's name again?
Like, not only had a stroke, John Fetterman. Not only did he have a stroke, but he like literally gave him speech impairment that affected him during the debate. This dude's up there talking like fucking Joe Biden in the middle of a debate, right? And still beats Dr. quote unquote Oz. Now I just want to dig into Fetterman real quick, right? This guy is the Bill Belichick of senators.
Wow.
This guy rolls with like a sleeveless hoodie and he's just like all over the place. So apparently he was a mayor of a suburb of Pittsburgh, somewhere like Harrisburg or something. I don't even know, somewhere around Pittsburgh. He was a mayor.
He was a mayor of Rocky Road.
For real, dude. He was a mayor of Baby Ruth. And anyway, his whole message to Pennsylvania.
Bob.
So leave that up. We're good here for a second.
Okay,
so his message basically to Pennsylvanians is like, listen, I'm not some panty coming in from Ohio to do the Republicans' bidding. I've been here my whole life. I know about the steel workers. I know about the factory workers. I know about the coal miners. This is my state. I've been here for the whole life. And then meanwhile, he's saying all this. He's missing every other word because of his stroke. But people still voted for him in droves, enough to call like the night of the election. So I don't quite understand. Like the bad candidates is another reason why the GOPers and the Trumpers are losing. You can't just throw a washed up Hall of Fame running back that can barely speak against Dr. Oz and say you're going to win those seats. Like, why don't you actually get someone that's homegrown from the state that people can get on board with, and then you have a chance of winning? Throw money at those people.
Here, I'm just gonna back that up a little bit here, and I wanna magnifying glass in on something you said that I'm circling back to in my head every few seconds, laughing at, but the Bill Belichick of politicians. Jesus Christ! He's got like a ridiculous old hoodie on that doesn't quite fit him right. You're like, what are you doing, dude?
Like, can we get your thoughts on Dr. Oz? Yep, he ran a good race. So we give it 110%.
This fucking guy. I love it. I love the messaging though. He's like, hey, so John, tell us why you're going to be a good fit for Pennsylvania, how you're going to fight for everybody. It's like, well,
it's like eggs.
It's like egg salad sandwiches, bro. Let's go. Hey, I might not be healthy, but I didn't die from a fucking stroke. Let's go. Oh my God. Well, I mean, hopefully he goes for president in 2024. You know what I mean? Because he's got more life in him than Joe Biden.
Hey, you know what? I'm still of the if you're over 65, you shouldn't be a politician. What? Chuck Grassley was fucking Chuck Grassley's corpse was elected as a senator of Iowa. He died like 6 years ago. But they've been fucking weekend at burning this dude around for like 6 years, and he still wins Iowa.
Well, I'll tell you what, dude.
Fuck?
Say what you will, dude, but Nancy Pelosi, you know, I mean, at least her teeth have been dead for the last 15 years, but yet somehow she's still playing, you know, like a habitual game of, we'll call Pong in her mouth or whatever it is to keep that shit going.
So I was talking to the Senate Majority Leader.
Get it, girl. Get it. Who's winning? Right or left? Get after it.
Yeah, dude. It's like someone's playing. Remember football with the paper bowls that you use?
Yeah.
Right?
I used to
play those in like
game.
middle school or whatever.
That's
Nancy Pelosi's right teeth playing with her left teeth.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. To sum this up a little bit here, Bob. You okay over there?
Yeah. No, it's in overtime with the Cowboy game. So don't mind me. Eyes. I know. Eyes up here. My eyes are up here.
Yeah, I see him. Yeah. Were you crying?
I'm just laughing. I'm laughing at how old our politicians are. And it's fucking sad. Like the rest of the world is really worried about us, but I think it's funny.
Well, I will tell you this, Bob. Just like how the Republicans took a really big hit. Their numbers have been dwindled down. So
like a Tua hit?
Jesus Christ, dude. like a seizing up. Like
was Mitch McConnell on the ground? Put me in, coach.
Oh my God. You know what? Here, I'll say this, Bob, just to switch gears a little bit. I was thinking about you yesterday because let me just kind of give everybody a little bit. Let me set the scene here. So I'm up about 12:45 in the morning last night. Because we say that, 12:45 in the morning last night. Everybody knows it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, I'm scrolling, I'm doing my thing, and I stop on some Stone Temple Pilots, and I'm like, oh, this is great, dude. And I'm watching.
I saw the quote. It was great.
Yeah, that's great. It got me fired up last night, and then I started going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, right? And I was like, oh, geez, these are great songs, and it stopped on a track, and like the guy, you know, Scott Weiland's singing, and it's what is it? I can't even remember that. I don't even remember the name of the track or what have you. Let me see. Hold on. Wait. Okay. Yes. So it's Creep by Stone Temple Pilots.
One of my favorite songs ever.
It's a good one, right? It's definitely a good one. But you know in that track where he's saying, I'm half the man I used to be.
Yeah.
I thought of you a little bit. And I was like, I wonder if Bob is feeling kind of like this a little bit to a large extent or a small extent. I don't know. But we started thinking about like just your T levels, bro. You know what I mean? And it may be, I had last night, I was like one little solitary tear coming down. And I was like, no. There's got to be hope for Bob. He's going to be okay.
Well, first of all, Scott, I'm twice the man I used to be. So says the doctor.
Touche.
But this brings up an important thing. And you know, Stiffies, my life is an open book. I've literally got no shame. Jess says it's Asperger's or I'm on the spectrum, but I have no shame. And I'm willing to just put it all out there because I think things are really black and white, and I think things shouldn't be taken interpersonally as some sort of I guess I just don't believe in the machismo of being a man or being a strong man.
It's kind of stupid. It's kind of stupid.
I'm a man when I provide for my kids and teach my children how to be better people than I was taught.
Hey, look,
that's how I am a man.
You're a man when you're getting jets of water shot up your ass on your bidet. Don't even sell yourself short. You're a very strong
extra
man.
high, just so a little bit goes inside. Hopefully,
I can only hope.
So I need a new doctor. Let's rewind this back to the beginning.
Let's go back. And I apologize too. I did kind of like, I gave you a big scene there and just kind of laid it on you. I gave you, just dropped an egg on you, and I apologize about that.
No. That's what a segue does, Scott.
I know.
Consummate professional.
Mm-hmm.
We spent enough time on the midterms. We had to move on to the next segment. And so a few years back, me and Jess, you know, my wife, had the same doctor, and I was feeling good. I was working out. I was doing good or whatever. My numbers were all good. I didn't go to the doctor for a couple years. I felt pretty good. You know, I was doing good. And then I got dropped. So when I went to schedule an appointment, and I was like, I kind of need a physical. It's been a few years. Let's do a checkup. And they're like, yeah, you got dropped. Like, you don't have a primary anymore. And I was like, well, that's a thing? I was like, okay, I guess that's a thing. So it took me a while to find one. And I call around and people are like 6-9 months out. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. This fucking free enterprise medical is really working out for us, right, Canada? And so I finally find this like new modern doctor in Rio Rancho. They're G&M Medical is the name of the place, right? But they're really modern with their approach to like a kind of holistic medicine. They're really hoity-toity. Like they do like bougie things like Botox and shit like that. But the thing that got me was they do male hormone therapy, TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. And so I was like, well, fuck, I'm 42. I should at least have my levels checked, right? And I had asked my doctor about this, my other primary, years ago, just to see where I was at, you know, when I'm doing my blood work. Let's throw that in there. Let's do everything. And she didn't include that and my thyroid, even though I'd specifically asked for it, which I thought was weird because, you know, I'm the customer. Whoa, hold on. Did I mute you? Is that a thing? Am I able to mute you?
No, that was me.
Oh, you muted you.
I muted myself.
Good.
Sorry.
No, yeah, it's okay. It's just, it seemed odd when your mouth was moving and no sound was coming out. so I go to this new doctor, right? They set me up at the primary. He's like, in a week. And I was like, oh, that's pretty legit, right? So I go in there and this dude is like, yeah, what do you need? And I was like, well, first of all, I'm fat and we need to get a handle on that, right? But beyond that, I want to get a full workup. I want to know all of my medical shit and get a true baseline to like get healthy. You know, I'm at the age to where I've done everything for my children. I'm a pretty good father and everything. It's time to circle back to my own health and quit skimping on my own stuff. And let's get me healthy and worry about dad, worry about Bob.
Can I say this? Very selfish of you. Very, very selfish of you.
Yeah, 42. Yeah, no big deal. So I was like, he's like, what do you want? And I was like, well, I want a full workup. I want to know what my thyroid's doing. I want to know what everything's doing. My blood pressure.
He's all, but Bob, pull your pants back up. We can do the full workout without just going right through the ass. You're like, no. This is where we start.
As I'm like, so doc, tell me how sick I am. So I told him, I was like, I want to know my testosterone levels and my thyroid levels specifically because I feel like I've been exercising and doing well, but I'm really not like holding and
Yeah.
maintaining my weight like I feel I should be. I don't
Yeah.
eat ridiculously, and I'm a little concerned about that. So we did. So he ran a full fucking shotgun, right? A full workup of everything. When he gave blood, within a week, I know my results. I'm talking to my doctor again. And he said, well, a normal range of testosterone is, 300 to 800. And I don't know what the fucking acronym of the testosterone levels was, but let's just go with a 300 to 800. And he said, you're like 211. And I was like, so I'm like 30% below the low point? And he's like, yeah, you are low. And he's like, that explains the midsection weight. That explains the fatigue. He's like, that actually explains a lot of the things you've been telling me about. And I was like, okay, well, let's get on that. And so I've started a testosterone replacement therapy. Every couple of weeks, I go and take a shot in the ass with a needle. and I've got to say this.
I like the stress on the needle. How do you replace testosterone? I just get fucked in the ass every couple of weeks.
My commute is about 40 or so minutes to work,
Sure.
to and from. And on the way back, I've been suffering the last few years of getting fucking like physically sleepy on my drive home. And I shouldn't in that amount of time, but I would. I found myself like nodding off at a light. I thought it was sleep apnea, which it was to some extent. And I got a CPAP machine and all that, but that didn't actually fix my fatigue. Since I've been taking the testosterone replacement therapy, I've actually been a lot more alert and I've been a lot less fatigued. I've been more ready to go work out and get after it. There's a lot to that. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I was afraid of testing my levels to some extent.
Sure.
Like,
yeah. You don't want to learn bad shit. That's detrimental.
And I was also afraid of the masculinity. Like, what does it mean if I'm a pussy? What does it mean if I'm like, literally not the man I used to be? And by all accounts, I wasn't half the man. I was 2/3 of the man. So I was 2/3 of the man I used to be, at least from a virile testosterone, manly, get after it, enthusiastic sense. And I've got to say, since I've been taking the therapy now for about a month, man, it's made a real difference. I feel a lot better. I feel a lot more alert. I feel a lot more energetic. I feel a lot more in the libido area. You got to get after that. Because let's be clear, I don't have ED. But I don't desire sex near as much as I used to. And that turns out that's not just like me or anything. It's just the testosterone drop.
Can we put a fine point on that though? You don't desire straight sex as much because your homosexual libido is through the roof.
The gay sex meter never stops. but I do gotta say, and I wanted to point it out, like, as you men get older and you're creeping onto your 40s and you're getting up in age, don't just tolerate fading off into the fucking distance. Don't tolerate your candle burning out into the night. You can actually check it and do something about yourself and feel better and take some therapy and man up about this shit and make a better situation for yourself. And I'm really glad that I looked into it and found out what was going on, because I was kind of lost. I was like, I'm just going to get old and fat and die. You know what I mean? And no, there was actually reasons underlining all of that. It wasn't just like me losing desire or losing stamina or losing energy or losing the want to anymore. There was a physical reason in my body that was happening that was causing all this to happen. And I feel a lot better since I've actually been correcting that imbalance in hormones. And so I thought it important enough to bring up in the show as a kind of a PSA for us middle-aged dads out there. Go get your balls checked. They may not be pumping enough for you lately. And if so, that's okay. Don't be ashamed. Get your balls checked.
I love
and get more testosterone in. Your wife will love it.
I love the refocus on the camera too. Hey, look at me. I'm the captain now. No, you're absolutely right. And we talked about this a few weeks ago when you had mentioned this to me. Very, very good of you. I think that's I'll go ahead and say noble in the sense of spreading the word. I think it's smart. I think it could mean a lot for a lot of people, and honestly, for a lot of people's relationships and otherwise. You know what I mean? I'll be really honest with you.
Your wife could feel less desired, but really it's just your T count's low and you're not thinking about sex as much. And now she's over there thinking, what's wrong with me? where am I at? It's my fault. It has nothing to do with her at all. It's just, I haven't been thinking about that. I've been consumed with other stuff, kids, work, all this other stuff. And you don't circle back to specifically focus on your partner, on your sex life in particular. And then that's okay. You got to circle back to that and realize, wait a minute, I may be over 40, but I'm still a person. My wife is still a person. She doesn't deserve to have less than, just because my body is kind of underperforming lately. Let's get that back up to speed and let's hit the ground running again.
So you're not half the man you used to be, or 1/3 or 2/3 or whatever it may be. I like that. You know what I mean? Let's
Not
get it back.
anymore. I'm back on track.
Tractor beam. We're reeling it in. There it is. That's good. I'm actually very interested and so curious in the sense that I'm going to get my T levels tested. Now, what would be interesting to me is I would assume that I'm in the same boat. I would just assume, not because I'm obese or anything like that, because honestly,
What
I
are you
don't
trying to say?
No, no, I'm just saying because I would assume I'm in the same boat where I may have lower than average testosterone, but I have no idea. I have no idea.
It's very common for men in their 40s.
Yeah, I have no idea. But I would just be interested because if I don't have low T, then I just don't know why I'm wildly obsessed with gay porn and not straight sex anymore. I'm just like my hands.
I've got an idea.
My hands are just like, what's going on here? Why did this happen to me?
And it's weird. I think that hormone levels should just be captured with all of the rest of the tests. You capture your LDH, you capture your cholesterol levels, your whatever. You capture your red blood cell count, your white blood cell count. You capture all this shit and you do your numbers. But why do you have to specifically ask to capture your hormone levels? That should be a given.
I'll tell you why. Here's what I'm going to tell you. And this is a whole another episode. So I'm going to cut it off right after I say this, because this is like an insurance kind of thing. Low, high testosterone levels aren't necessarily and aren't technically life-threatening. So they're not going to be covered by insurance, nor will they be pushed by doctors because they know that they're going to have to do stuff that they won't get paid for, or they're not going to get the maximum profit from doing. So it's just not going to happen. It's not going to be part of that.
Having the proper hormone levels prevents all kinds of other chronic illnesses.
That doesn't matter. Those are things that you need to go back to the doctor for and keep hitting the well. You know what I mean?
Right. You're 100% right.
That's it. That's the end of the thing. If it's not something that can immediately kill you, then they're like, no, we're not going to test for that, dude. Like, dude, you have to go figure that shit out on your own, because that's not in our interest as a company or a hospital or a medical establishment. Because let's not forget it. We are in America. These places are for profit. Even your doctor is for profit. So they're not necessarily looking out for you. They're looking out for how they can treat you to make more money. And I'm going to end it there. I'm just going to end it there.
No, that makes sense. And it's time that we start taking a more holistic approach to our medicine.
Mm-hmm.
To do things that prevent things, to make sure we're doing the right things. And I think you know where I'm going here. Because a study came out this year that showed that low serotonin does not cause depression. How about that?
I think that's very enlightening, buddy. And I'll tell you what, from somebody that had suffered and been treated for both anxiety and depression for over a decade, I do not find it extremely and profoundly surprising that this study found the results that they did. I'll just tell you that right now. And yes, it seems very logical that you could broad stroke and very simplify this whole thing and say, hey, you know what? You're sad. Well, your serotonin's probably fucked up. You don't got a lot of it going on, so we need to create a lot more of that, and you won't be sad anymore. It'll be fine, right? I've had an issue with that for the longest time. And what's interesting about this, Bob, and about the study that you sent me, is they even would go as far to say that people that have depression and or anxiety, but mostly depression, that it would actually be a negative. It would actually be harmful to their mental health to take SSRIs and things that are normally prescribed for depression. Like it won't, not only will it not help, it may be a disadvantage for you to do this, which is interesting to me because let me tell you from my experience over the past, we'll call it 10 years or so on these kind of medications, not only have I had to like what's the word I want to use here? I've had to like re-encounter, but like I literally here's what the drugs did for me. Nothing. They literally just kind of like made things like a little bit hard to determine a little bit, and they kind of kept them like under control in the sense that like the symptoms weren't extremely bad, but as soon as you remove the blanket again, right, they're still right there. Like nothing has happened. There's no change in your chemical makeup or anything like that. So what I think a lot of these drugs do is literally just kind of dole down the symptoms of the problem and don't treat the problem at all. And then when you pull those away, you're literally like right back where you were, and potentially even worse because you haven't dealt with your problems yet. That's what I think. You know what I mean?
Well, and I've even heard that, antidepressants just kind of numb you.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
that life is just, you don't really care about the information that you're getting or the stimulants, that you're receiving. You just kind of get numb to it. And it looks like the Packers won, by the way.
Wow. Yeah. Well, they skid for like what, 4 or 5 games, so that makes sense. Sorry,
but anyway,
kudos.
So going back to the article, it looks like this theory goes back, and this is a study of low serotonin, not the cause of depression, by Fred Schwaller on DW.com. Proper sourcing there. The theory originates from the 1960s, and I'm quoting this: when doctors used medications such as iproniazid, mood enhancers, which they believed worked by increasing serotonin concentrations in the brain. Since then, the idea has stuck as a simple explanation for depression, and one with attractively simple treatment, taking SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors such as Prozac, to boost serotonin levels. But this study basically said that SSRIs don't really do anything for depression.
No, in fact,
because serotonin doesn't have any effect on depression or not. And they don't know exactly what causes depression. But this is, I think, a great thing because it's going to reopen the conversation. Because they thought they had it in the bag, they had it in lock. Kind of like physicists think that the Big Bang solves everything, but it doesn't because there's anomalies. So if it solves everything, why is there anomalies? Right? So why is there singular, anomalies, but are singularities? So same thing with depression. This doesn't solve it, but because they've just said that this is the answer for the last 60 years, no one has continued looking as to what actually causes depression. You know what I'm saying? So, so I think this is going to lead to great things and what causes depression. And you made a great point to me offline as to, it's amazing that how we accept facts that come into our life and deal with experiences is how we relate to our, depression and how we work through that. And it's just like, yeah, well, yes, how we process traumatic events is really what leads to our ability to accept this or not, and leads to depression. And, that makes more sense to me than anything, having to work with the bullshit. And I'm not surprised that this simplification of depression comes from the fucking boomers. I'm just not. I'll say it once, and I'll say it every show if I have to. And even though I love my parents, the boomers are the single worst thing to happen to America since the Civil War, and maybe even worse than that.
That's a long time. That's a lot of things.
The boomers are a terrible generation that tried to just oversimplify life. And it doesn't surprise me at all that they're like, well, SSRIs are good. Cool. You guys invested in this fucking Prozac company. Good. Let's get on board. Let's call it a win and let's move forward and be millionaires. And done. Answer solved. And no one ever looked into it again in the scientific community because they got enough people to sign off on it. But now there's enough people The study gathered evidence from 361 peer-reviewed scientific studies, and they found no link between depression and serotonin levels in the blood.
Well, you know what's interesting about this, Bob, too, and I thought about this, and I think we've talked about this idea before, is at that time in the 1960s, you had a lot of drugs popping up, SSRIs particularly, that were like the new hot thing for depression. And this is actually relevant in the COVID world too, right? With the vaccines and other things. Like these drugs had patents. They had patents. So for like an extended amount of time, they couldn't be duplicated by generics. So what does that mean?
What is that? 20 years? I think it's 20 years.
Yeah, something like that. But that means that there's a lot of time for these drugs to get momentum and for people to get on board with what's going on, and for these drug companies to make a shitload of money because they're the only thing in town when it comes to these fucking substances. So now there are definitely generics for Prozac and these other antidepressants. But at that time in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, when this was a huge revival of this idea, in the sense of the oversimplification of like, hey, if you have this issue, no big deal. You just take these, you get more serotonin in your head. You're going to be fine. You're going to fix that chemical imbalance. It's going to be all good. But what we've had recently is I don't think almost any of these drugs now have a patent. So without that, there's generics, and automatically the momentum for these drug companies to keep that rhetoric going is magically gone. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden you're allowed to, and I'm going to say that this way, you're allowed to have these kind of studies that contradict this paradigm. You know what I mean? Because there's nobody pushing back anymore. But I think this is a good thing in the grand scheme of things, obviously, because you do have people coming in saying, hey, like you said, it really doesn't have anything to do with the balance of chemicals in your brain inherently. Like, yes, the balance of chemicals may be off in your brain, pending that you're not dealing with traumatic life events properly, or you've had too many traumatic life events go on, or you just, again, are not coping with shit that's going on in your life correctly. And you need to have somebody walk you through what's going on in your head and how maybe you should be able to deal with this differently to hopefully unwind how you trained your brain, AKA psychotherapy. You know what I mean? So with that being said, they're introducing, some wild ideas like psychedelics, like ketamine and psilocybin, that help people actually come to terms and rewrite the way that they've dealt with things and revisit the way that they've dealt with traumatic things. And hence maybe can come out of the other side with a better understanding on how to deal with things to have actually a healthier life for themselves moving forward, which I think is interesting because you know what? This has only become a thing in the past like 10 years or so. And I don't think it's ironic or a coincidence that this is okay now, as the drug companies have stopped caring about keeping the stronghold on their profits from drugs that aren't patented anymore.
I agree 100%. And I kind of have a personal take on this for a moment, but for a second, I'm going to corroborate your last little spiel there with something else from this article. A quote from this article says, quote, experts suggest that depression is caused by the cortex more negatively appraising emotions, particularly those triggered by events linked with bad memories, which is essentially what you just said.
Yeah.
Right. But
100%.
then it says chronic stress can have further impact on these networks, affecting the brain's ability to adapt to stressful situations. In turn, this causes pre-existing vulnerabilities to manifest. And then it goes on to new ways to treat depression look more effective. Oh, I went Joe Biden for a second there. With the mixed effectiveness of antidepressants, scientists have been keen to identify new ways to treat depression. This is where it gets interesting. And you want to fast forward to Joe Rogan. He's talked a lot about microdosing. He's a fan. He does it, and he said there's a lot of benefits to it. There's increasing evidence for the benefits of mind-altering drugs such as ketamine and psilocybin mushrooms in treating depression. And I think that's fascinating, right? Because only in the last decade have we really wanted to look at the drugs that have been classified as a narcotic through Reagan's war on drugs, and actually look at like what is the medical benefits of these because they've been classified as that category of narcotics, the same as heroin and all the other shit. No one has actually been able to look at them. They've just been kind of locked away in the closet. But it looks like microdosing and small amounts of mushrooms in a good environment are actually really effective at unlocking emotions and readdressing ways to face some of these traumatic experiences with the help of psychologists and kind of opening the can of worms. You know, I kind of personally, I was talking to my wife, I think it was yesterday, it might have been the day before, but one of my friends had said something. Well, when my 16th birthday, I didn't do this or whatever. And I didn't really care about that because we were talking about Daring's birthday that was coming up. He's turning 16 on Tuesday. And then I started thinking, and I was like, I just started thinking about my birthdays in general. And I'm like, you know, from like 5 to 17, I really don't remember a whole lot of my childhood. And then I started wondering to myself, why don't I remember a lot of my childhood like that? And I started like really digging into it, and I was like, well, my parents were like that old Southern, you know, my way or the highway. You get the belt or the stick or the chain or the wrench or the whatever the fuck, right? And then I started remembering like, well, you know, about 4 to 5 days a week I would get fucking hit with a hand, with a piece of an armchair, with a switch from the peach tree, with a belt, with you fucking name it. And like, cause I was a smart ass, you know, as an intelligent kid with probably ADHD and probably autistic. Those remain to be determined, but I'm definitely balancing my own act in life and everything. And I started like thinking about like my parents' Southern way of boomers dealing with this shit was to just fucking hit me until I shut the fuck up. And then I was just like, you know, I bet you I don't remember a lot of my childhood because a lot of it was fucking traumatic from getting hit all the time. And then I kind of got sad, you know, and I kind of get sad now, but that's 100% fucking right. And would I be able to take some shrooms with the psychologist to unlock some of that and move forward?
100%. I
Right.
guarantee it. I guarantee it.
And that's where I'm at now. And sorry.
Hey, man, we'll take some mushrooms, man. No big deal. I mean,
I'm
we'll
just
get this
saying that for so long, this shit has been so black and white and been wrong.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, these generations of people have fucking suffered being in the dark, that now there's a new way to really help people. And I'm really excited for where we're going to go. Sorry that I got a little too deep and I might have unlocked a little bit too much for you guys. But again, I have no shame. I don't know if shame's a thing in my brain, but I have no shame. And that's where we're at now. So take it for what it is.
Hey, Bob's a little light on tea, a little heavy on emotion. Nothing wrong with that. No, I love what you're doing in the sense that you're absolutely right, dude. It's a shame we weren't here 20, 30 years ago in the sense of the openness of understanding what is actually wrong with people, just regular people too. You know what I mean? And there's so many people that will be dubbed, myself included, like, well, you just got some issues with this. You just got a chemical imbalance. It's because your brain's all fucked up. You just need to do this. I was like, no. Maybe there's some things that just happened that I need to walk through again with a guide and say, hey, you know what? Like, you need to revisit these. Because again, it's like this, it's like PTSD, you know, in the sense of like those kind of traumatic events. You know what I mean? You don't
100%. I think it is PTSD.
Exactly. You don't revisit them naturally and independently because it hurts and it's very painful. So when you block those completely out of your mind, you kind of forget any lessons that could be learned from those experiences. And you just remember the huge negatives of this experience, but you don't even remember why those negatives happened. So you just have this big negative imprint on your brain, essentially. You know what I mean? That carries on for the rest of it. It's almost like it's like a big negative, like imprint of a tattoo on yourself, and you carry that with you for the rest of your life, which affects every facet of the rest of your life, and you have no idea how to handle it, what to do, how to address it, how to do anything about it. And I think there's a lot of validity and there's a lot of hope for just, and it may sound wild to a lot of people, but I'm very proud of Colorado for sanctioning the use of psychedelics for medicinal purposes like they did in this election. Because it was, I think that was Prop 123 up here.
Way to lead from the front.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's gonna be a big thing. To be continued on that, because again, there's a lot of studies that have not been done because they haven't been allowed to be done for the past like 60 years. And I do have to put one correction on you here. It wasn't Reagan's war on drugs. I got to give that to another Republican.
Nixon's.
There we go. I got to give it to
my bad.
I gotta give it to another Republican.
Reagan created DARE.
That's right. His wife created DARE. You're absolutely right. But yeah, this is all Richard Nixon, baby. That's his war, baby.
The best president we've ever had.
And I think we're gonna end on that one. You heard it here first, folks. Bob, 2/3 of the man he used to be. His favorite president is Richard Nixon.
I should be back to like good now. I should be good. It's been a month. I should be good.
He's fine. He's
I'm
fine.
back to
He's
the man I
doing
used
fine.
to be.
Oh my God, guys, good conversation today, Bobby. Really good conversation, man. Thanks so much for sharing. And I do really mean that. No joking, all kidding aside, man. I appreciate you sharing with us because this is important shit. This is important shit for all of us, not just people over 40. I think everybody needs to check themselves and also go ahead and like check in with their mental wellness, man, because if anything, and I know people have heard this on PSAs and commercials and shit like that, but everybody should check in with themselves, make sure they're doing okay, and make sure they feel good about things. And if you slightly don't, it's okay. Get out there, talk to somebody, talk to your professional, see if that helps you. It may not help you at all, and you may leave super pissed off, but at least you can check that box and say, hey, I went and did that, to see maybe if that could help me, because in the grand scheme of things, that usually can at least kind of just soften the blow and iron things out a little bit. You know what I mean?
We love softening blows.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Here we go.
Hey,
guys,
seriously though, check your T levels. If you can't remember your childhood, figure out why. I'm just being honest.
And if it was just amazing and you were at Disney World every other day like me, and you just like had great things going on, then don't worry about it. But yes, yeah, definitely check those things out. Guys, thanks for joining us again this week. Like and subscribe, check us out, rate us. Don't forget to keep supporting us because we love that when you love us and we love you. And until next time, guys, we love you. We'll see you again.
See ya.